come and watch this. Before Aaron starts, just a couple of points that I need to ask. Can everyone just please either turn off or keep their cameras off and stay on mute throughout the training? And if you've got any questions, can you just pop them in the chat? And what we do, we collate them at the end. We get the answers and we send them out after the demonstration, along with the video of today. Thanks for your time, patience with this, and on that, over to Aaron.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Steve. So I'm Aaron. I'm one of the trainers for the Trust. I'm going to start off with the inpatient doctor's discharge process. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can all see it. Hopefully that has come through now. Okay, so I'm starting off from the doctor's work list. So as you can see at the top, we've got the link to the doctor's work list here. And the first thing we need to do is to record the patient as MDT fit for discharge. This is the first step to start off that discharge workflow. So I'm going to select my patient by clicking on the name from the doctor's work list. I'm going to use this test patient here. And then I'm going to navigate to the Manage M page, as we can see. We've got our M pages across the top. We need to be in the Manage M page. An MDT fit for discharge is an order within the system. So I'm going to select the option, the component down the side of New Order Entry. And within this search here, if I just type in MDT, and I'm going to select the MDT fit for discharge option. So I'm just going to click on this once. And you'll notice this falls into the orders for signature box up in the top right hand side. So I'm going to click on this to action that request, and I'm going to say modify details. I'm going to click on the order. And there's nothing to fill in at this point. I can add additional comments if needed, but I'm just going to sign this off. So that's the first stage completed. So once we've done our MDT fit for discharge, I'm going to move to our next M page, which is discharge meds. So we can see we've got a number of components available, but we've got discharge medications, which is a mandatory field, which is identified by the red star. So I'm going to click on discharge medications. And on the far right hand side, I'm going to click on the discharge link. So you can see we've got some medications available here. At this point, we're going to decide, are we stopping the medication, so we're not sending the patient home with this, or are we going to prescribe it for the patient to take home? Okay, so in the middle of our screen, we've got three icons. We're going to stay away from the play icon in this section. We're either going to use the pill icon, which is to prescribe medication for take home, or we're going to use the stop icon. So I'm going to continue a couple of these. I'm going to continue the prednisolone. I do apologize, I'm having to use a nursing account, that's why we're seeing this. And I'm going to continue the salbutamol, and I'm going to stop the paracetamol. So we can see here, the orders are pulled through to the right-hand side of our screen, and anything with the blue X next to it means more details need to be completed. So we can see we've got at the bottom of the screen, we've got more details that need to be completed. So I'm just going to pull this section up. And if anything needs changing at this point, we can use the fields to update that medication. And we can see by the yellow icons, we've got a couple of mandatory fields. So the first one is this an admission med? Yes or no? I'm going to say yes for this medication. And then GP to continue details. You have got a special instructions box, and if you do need to inform pharmacy of any further information, we can use that comments box there. Medication, which is salbutamol. Again, we can update the details as required. And once you've kind of completed all the orders within this section, down at the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side, I'm going to click Sign. You will be then presented with this box that we can see on screen. So what this is telling us is if we have finished with our discharge medications, down at the bottom, we're going to leave this box ticked. Okay. If we've not finished with discharge medications at this point, I can untick that box and it will allow you to come back in and make further changes later on. If we do leave this box ticked, pharmacy will lock those medications down while they're working on them. If you do need them unlocking for any reason, please contact the pharmacy team. So I'm going to leave that ticked for the time being and click on OK. And again, I'm going to do a final sign off. And those medications have been ordered. And you can see they populate in the discharge medications field there. They will then go to pharmacy. Once they've been verified by the pharmacy team, it will generate a task for the nurses to go and collect those medications and supply. Print that prescription off, and we can create that controlled drug prescription by selecting down at the bottom the controlled drugs prescription component. Yeah, give the document a once over at this point, and then we can sign and submit that off. Yeah, again, I'm going to sign this. So if at this point you now need to print that controlled drug prescription off, I'm going to navigate to the documents component, as we can see on the left-hand side. And I just need to refresh my screen first of all, using the refresh button in the top right-hand side, just to pull that document through. Again, if I navigate back to the discharge component, you see the controlled drugs prescription has populated. Click on this to select it, and then I have a print option just at the top. Yeah, you would select your template, which will be controlled drugs prescription, the purpose for the document, and the device you wish to send that document to. Click send, and that will print out that controlled drug prescription for you to sign. So I'm just going to close that box down. Once we've done our discharge medications, we're then going to move on to the discharge end page, as we can see here. And looking down the left-hand side of our screen, we've got a couple of mandatory fields that need to be completed. Some of these will be done by nurses, some of these will be done by doctors. Okay, you can also see we've got further components available, such as clinical summary, where you can document your clinical information. And we've also got plans and requested actions. This is where we can add any follow-up information to be picked up, and also any information for the GPs. So the first thing we're going to action from here is the problem list. And this is where we're going to record a discharge diagnosis for our patient. So looking at this section that we've got here, I'm going to select add as, and I'm going to leave this as this visit. And then I'm going to record my discharge diagnosis for our patient. Yeah, start typing, type in a couple of letters, and you should hopefully see some options that become available. Click on the option required. And you'll then see on the left-hand side next to problem list, we get the green tick to show that section's been satisfied. If there was no chronic problem recorded, you would need to click either record that or click the no chronic problems box that will be available. I'm then going to move to the person completing record. And on the far right-hand side, we'll see this little arrow that's available. Click on the arrow, and this is where you'll find the form that needs to be completed. Yeah, we can see we've got more mandatory fields to be populated. It will pull you through because you're logged onto the system, and you're just going to put your role and grade in and your professional registration number. So like any form throughout the system, just in the top left of the form to sign the document off, click the green tick, and we'll then see that has been completed. So at this point, you may want to create the discharge letter on the system. So I'm then going to move down to the bottom of the components, and I'm going to select Inpatient Discharge Summary. Yeah, because the nursing documentation hasn't been done at this point, it is asking me for an override reason, which I'm just going to document. And then I'm going to click Submit. So again, this generates the letter, and again, just have a look through that to make sure all the information is correct and it's pulled through. Once you're happy with the document, click Sign and Submit. And again, I'm just going to sign the form off. So again, to make sure that's being done correctly, if I navigate back to the documents component, again, I'm just going to refresh my screen by using the refresh in the top right. And we can see the inpatient discharge summary has pulled through. And again, I can click on that to view that if needed. Yeah, if that needs to be printed for any reason, again, we've got the print button at the top, and it's the same process as I showed you with the controlled drug prescription. Just one area to be aware of. So at the top of the components, again, on the left-hand side, we've got our discharge summary status. This will show you once that document's been sent to the GP. So once it's been electronically sent, it will state in here that it's been electronically sent. And if any changes need to be made, we need to go back in and modify that document. We can also use the discharge kind of work list up at the top of our screen as well, just to see discharge information and what's been completed. If I click on discharge up at the top, yeah, and this will display any discharge information that's been completed for your patient at that moment in time. Something I believe they're working on at the moment under the whiteboard, within the whiteboard at the top of the screen. Sorry, I don't think that's going to work. I think it's too many patients on gynae day case. So what they are planning on doing is adding a few extra columns in there to show you any outstanding tasks. So if key discharge details, for instance, haven't been completed, you'll be able to see clearly from that screen what's been done and what hasn't been completed. Yeah, what will happen then? The nurse will go in and record their discharge documentation for the patient, and they will officially discharge the patient from the ward. And that's the end of the inpatient doctor's discharge process.
That's great stuff, Aaron. Thank you ever so much for that. Just to reiterate, we will send a link out to the video. We will take all the questions in the chat and get the answers, and then we will send out probably a link or the document itself to a spreadsheet where all the answers will be in there. So we can't take questions now because we're going to move straight on and we're going to be doing the nurse and discharge workflow next. So thank you for your time. Much appreciated. And we'll get this information out to you ASAP. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Brill. So I just seem to have just run into a short problem. So I'm just going to go back into PowerChart from my main screen. If it will let me. If it works. Sorry, bear with me a second. Sorry about this, everyone. I've got the circle of death on screen. Let me just try and remove that again. Try and start that system up.
So Darren sets up, I think we've got some new people joining as well. Just to let you know, we're now going to move through into the inpatient nursing discharge workflow. So again, just to reiterate kind of rules and procedures, as it were, we will be taking any questions you've got, please put into the chat, and we will send out links to the videos and where the questions and the answers will be as soon as we can after Aaron's done the demonstration.
So I'm just trying to close the system down so I can restart it. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's have a look. Sorry, everyone, please bear with me. Okay, excellent. So we're going to move on to the inpatient discharge for nurses on the wards. So I'm going to select my ward from Care Compass by selecting the tab up at the top. And we can see we've got our patients available. So I'm going to click into the patient I want to commence the discharge for. So at this point, if you do need to look at any discharge medications, we can go into the Discharge Meds M page and navigate to the Discharge Medications component, and they will be displayed in here. Yep. What will happen once the medications have been verified by pharmacy, that will generate a task onto the Care Compass for the nurses to pick up. Once those medications are ready, it will say pharmacy dispensed, and you can pick them up from there. So the first thing we need to do is specify to the system that we've given these medications to the patient. So looking up at the toolbar at the top of our screen, I'm going to select the Discharge Medications option that we can see here. And this will display any medications that are ready to be given at that point. So all we would do, we will click on each medication, and we will click the Given button at the top, and that will remove it off your list. So you'd work through your medications, and as you have given them to your patient, tick Given. And once those have been completed, you can sign this off by clicking Sign down at the bottom. So I'm then going to move across to the Discharge M page, as we can see here. And we've got a couple of mandatory fields down the left-hand side that need to be completed. So the first one we're going to look at is the nursing discharge checklist. And again, to complete this form, on the far right-hand side, we've got this little arrow available. Click the arrow and we can see the discharge checklist form. So at this point, we can see we've got a couple of sections that need to be completed. Hopefully, when the patient's been admitted, the discharge care plan would have been initiated, and the date of admission section should have been completed. We can also see in here as well, we've got an up to 48 hours prior to discharge section. So you can come in here at any point and complete that as required. And then we've got our date of discharge section just down at the bottom. So you work through these questions, reading them and answering as you go along. Once you've completed the form, up in the top left-hand side of the screen, we've got a green tick, and this will electronically sign it. So once that's been completed, you'll notice on the left-hand side, next to nursing discharge checklist, we have got our green tick to show that's been done. So again, moving down to the next mandatory field, which is the key discharge information. And again, on the far right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to click the little arrow and select, first of all, key discharge details. So we're going to work through the mandatory fields as required. Discharge destination, discharge date and time. So again, if you're doing this now, I can say T for today, or you can use the arrows to find the date that's required. If you also click on this little arrow here, you can use the calendar view to select your date. And again, if it's the current time we're doing this, I can click N for now, and it'll pull through the current time. We then need to select our discharging staff member. So to do this, click on the magnifying glass and enter the details as required at the top. Click search and find them in the list down at the bottom. We then need to enter the discharging ward contact number. And again, we're going to sign this form off using the green tick. If I go back into key discharge information, and again, back into the little arrow on the right-hand side, I can then select key discharge dates. And again, complete the form as required. And you'll also notice down the left-hand side, there's another form that needs to be completed. And again, complete is required. Sign the form off once done. So then the final thing to do is create our inpatient discharge summary. So if it's already been created by the doctor, you'll see the following message. So if I click on inpatient discharge summary down at the bottom of the screen, and because it's already been created, it's asking us to open existing note. So I'm going to click continue at that point. If it hadn't been created, it would just take you straight through to that document. So at this point, we are always going to click revise and then OK. And to refresh the document and pull through the new details that we've just completed, up in the top right-hand side where we can see refresh, if you hover over where it says refresh and just above, you'll see this little refresh button. Click on that and that will pull through any new information recorded. Again, just double check the letter and then click sign down at the bottom. Yeah, if you wish to see that letter, navigate back to the documents component on the left-hand side. And we'll just give the screen a refresh by using the refresh in the top right-hand side. And we can then see next to inpatient discharge summary, we've got this little triangle system. This just means we've done an updated copy. The final thing to do then is officially discharge the patient from the ward. I can do this by, again, right down at the bottom left-hand side, under end visit, we're going to select discharge. Give that a second to think about it. I'm just going to do it a slightly different way for training. So when you click the discharge button, you will be presented with this screen that pops up in a moment. I'm just going to maximize this screen first of all. Then we've got some more mandatory fields that need to be completed. So discharge method. Yeah, we can add discharge comments in if required. And also the doctor authorizing discharge. Yeah, once completed, click OK. So again, if I refresh my screen using the refresh button up at the top, you'll now see in the patient banner that the discharge date and time has been populated. Also, if we navigate back to Care Compass and refresh my screen, the patient has disappeared. Thank you, everyone.
That's great. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks everybody for attending today. We'll get the video link and the link to the questions once we've answered them out to you as soon as possible. And there, so you've got somewhere to go if you need to sort of refresh on the video or see what the answers are. Once again, thanks.